Imagine a single gunshot triggering a chain reaction that would drag the entire world into war. Empires collapsed, millions died, and the modern world was permanently reshaped, all because of tensions that had been building quietly for decades. World War I did not begin because of one event or one decision. It began because Europe was a pressure cooker, and in 1914, it finally exploded. To understand why World War I started, we need to look beyond the assassination that sparked it and explore the deeper forces that made a global war almost inevitable. Nationalism, imperial competition, military alliances, and fear all played a role. By the early 20th century, Europe was standing on the edge of disaster without fully realizing it. At the heart of the conflict was a continent dominated by powerful empires. The British Empire, the French Empire, the German Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Russian Empire, and the Ottoman Empire controlled vast territories and millions of people. These empires competed for land, influence, and prestige. Each wanted to prove its strength, and none wanted to appear weak. One of the most powerful forces driving Europe toward war was nationalism. Nationalism is the belief that people who share a common language, culture, or history should form their own nation. In some places, nationalism created unity. In others, it created deep divisions. In Western Europe, nationalism fueled pride and rivalry between countries. In Eastern and Southeastern Europe, nationalism was far more dangerous. The Austro-Hungarian Empire ruled over many different ethnic groups, including Serbs, Croats, Czechs, and others who wanted independence. These nationalist movements weakened the empire from within and created constant instability. Nowhere was this more explosive than in the Balkans. The Balkans were a region of competing ethnic groups, collapsing empires, and rising national identities. Serbia, a small but ambitious nation, wanted to unite Slavic peoples in the region. This directly threatened Austria-Hungary, which controlled territory that Serbian nationalists claimed as their own. At the same time, Russia supported Slavic nationalism in the Balkans. Russia saw itself as the protector of Slavic peoples and wanted to expand its influence in the region. This brought Russia into direct conflict with Austria-Hungary, turning local tensions into international ones. While nationalism destabilized Eastern Europe, imperialism intensified rivalry across the continent. European powers competed for colonies in Africa and Asia, seeing overseas empires as symbols of national greatness. Britain and France controlled vast colonial territories, while Germany, a newer unified nation, felt left behind. Germany's rapid industrial growth made it a major economic power, but its lack of colonies created resentment. German leaders believed their country deserved a place among the world's dominant empires. This desire for expansion increased tensions with Britain and France, especially as Germany began building a powerful navy to challenge British dominance at sea. Military competition made the situation even worse. By the early 1900s, European nations were locked in an arms race. They expanded their armies, developed new weapons, and created detailed war plans. Rather than preventing war, military preparation made leaders more confident that conflict was manageable and even necessary. Germany developed the Schlieffen Plan, a strategy designed to quickly defeat France before turning east to fight Russia. France prepared its own plans to reclaim territory lost to Germany decades earlier. Russia expanded its army, while Britain focused on maintaining naval supremacy. War planning became so detailed that once mobilization began, it was difficult to stop. Another critical factor was the system of alliances that divided Europe into rival camps. Two major alliance blocs emerged. The Triple Entente consisted of Britain, France, and Russia. The Triple Alliance included Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, though Italy's commitment was uncertain. These alliances were intended to maintain balance and deter aggression. In reality, they made any conflict far more dangerous. A dispute between two countries could quickly pull in multiple allies, turning a regional crisis into a continental war. Diplomacy during this period was fragile and often driven by fear rather than cooperation. Leaders assumed that war was inevitable and believed striking first might offer an advantage. Mistrust between nations meant that even defensive actions were interpreted as threats. By 1914, Europe was a continent armed to the teeth, divided by alliances and fueled by nationalist ambition. All it needed was a spark. That spark came on June 28, 1914, in the city of Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was assassinated by a Bosnian Serb nationalist. The assassination shocked Europe, but political assassinations were not uncommon at the time. What made this one different was how governments responded. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia for the attack, believing Serbian officials had supported the assassins. With Germany's backing, Austria-Hungary issued an ultimatum to Serbia containing demands designed to be nearly impossible to accept. Serbia agreed to most of the demands, but rejected those that threatened its sovereignty. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. What might have remained a regional conflict quickly escalated. Russia mobilized its army to support Serbia. Germany declared war on Russia and then on France. Germany invaded Belgium to reach France, violating Belgian neutrality. Britain, which had pledged to protect Belgium, declared war on Germany. Within days, Europe was engulfed in a full-scale war. Alliances activated like dominoes, transforming a Balkan crisis into a global conflict. As the war spread, it became clear that leaders had vastly underestimated its scale and brutality. Many believed the war would be short and decisive. Instead, it became a grinding, industrialized conflict unlike anything the world had seen before. Trench warfare dominated the Western Front. Soldiers lived in muddy trenches under constant threat of artillery fire, disease, and gas attacks. Battles dragged on for months with little territorial gain, while casualties mounted into the millions. The war expanded beyond Europe. Colonies were drawn in, and fighting occurred in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Eventually, the United States entered the war, tipping the balance against Germany and its allies. By the time World War I ended in 1918, the human cost was staggering. Millions of soldiers and civilians were dead. Entire regions were devastated. For major empires collapsed: the German, Austro-Hungarian, Russian, and Ottoman empires. The war did not just change borders, it changed how the world understood conflict. Industrial technology had turned warfare into mass slaughter. Political systems were shaken, and new ideologies emerged in the chaos left behind. Perhaps most importantly, the war failed to resolve many of the tensions that caused it. Harsh peace terms, unresolved national grievances, and economic instability created the conditions for future conflict. Rather than ending global rivalry, World War I set the stage for an even more destructive war just 2 decades later. World War I began not because of a single assassination, but because Europe was built on fragile foundations. Nationalism, imperial ambition, military competition, and rigid alliances created a system where peace was unstable and war was always close at hand. Understanding why World War I started helps explain how quickly the world can slide into catastrophe when fear replaces diplomacy and competition outweighs cooperation. It stands as a reminder that global conflict rarely begins with one decision, but with many smaller choices made over time, until there is no turning back.